So even though I'm being suppressed in every way, I'm still going to keep making videos. And what I want to know is, why is JFK or RFK Jr. given such a pass when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein? I mean, I've heard nothing except for the past 8 years whenever Jeffrey Epstein is mentioned, even though he came off the street under Trump's watch. All I've heard is how Trump, some event because Jeffrey Epstein was at Mar-a-Lago that Trump threw him out of, but some picture flying around means that Trump was tied to Jeffrey Epstein. But nobody has really wanted to make much of a big deal about how RFK Jr. was on 2 flights with Epstein back in 1993. He says it. He said it himself. He said it on a podcast 8 months ago on the Flagrant podcast. You can find it on YouTube for free. 2 flights because his former wife, who died, Mary Richardson, who is his former wife, was good friends with Glenn Maxwell. Such good friends that that's what she called Ghislaine, was Glenn. And that's what RFK Jr. called Ghislaine, was Glenn. So I'm just wondering, why is there such a difference between the pass the Kennedys are given? Because, Joe Rogan puts the same people that put Elon Musk on a pedestal, put RFK Jr. on a pedestal too. And so RFK says, well, nobody knew about Epstein back in 1993. No, that's not true. They know that he was trafficking girls even back all the way to the late 80s. Jeffrey Epstein was born in 1953 and began his financial career in the 1970s. He cultivated an elite social circle and procured many women and children for sexual abuse, including underage girls. In the 1980s, Epstein's sex trafficking operation was already underway, according to the Miami Herald's investigative reporting. Epstein's victims reported being recruited and abused by him in the 1980s, often under the guise of massages or modeling opportunities. Statements from RFK Jr. I took 2 plane rides with Jeffrey Epstein. My wife knew his girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell. As I said, in that podcast, Flagrant, he refers to Ghislaine as Glenn. And they offered us a ride when we were going to see my mother. I was with 2 children and my wife on the plane at the time. I knew nothing about Jeffrey Epstein. I hope, number 3 here, I hope everything that is known about Jeffrey Epstein comes out. For remember, nobody knew anything about Jeffrey Epstein's nefarious activities till 2006. So he made sure to say that, right? Remember, nobody knew anything about Jeffrey, because that's what he says in this podcast. You don't know people who are creepers. You don't know them right off the bat. But I just read how the Herald said they knew. They already knew his activities were going on in the 80s. This was in 1993. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the son of Senator Robert F. Kennedy and a 2024 independent presidential candidate, has publicly acknowledged flying on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet twice. The first flight occurred in 1993. So that was years. That was because it was the late 80s that Jeffrey Epstein in Miami was already trafficking girls. But he says nobody knew that when he took his 2 flights in 1993. Okay. The first flight occurred in 1993 when Kennedy visited his mother in Palm Beach, and the second flight took place 1 or 2 years later during a fossil hunting trip with his children to the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. Now, he goes on to say that Jeffrey Epstein didn't do any fossil hunting with them. He sat in the car. And you know what? I'm not trying to accuse RFK of anything here, okay? It's just, what's the double standard about, huh? That's what makes it look really suspicious, is the double standard. And see, Jeffrey Epstein had ties with CDC. Yeah, he did. All about seeding the gene pool, not a conspiracy. CDC themselves came out about it. And yet, who's heading up HHS? RFK Jr. Great. Great. So you know what? My gut instincts have been right in this area. But what really pisses me off, okay, well, I'll continue to be silenced, because the people, I'm telling you, any of these podcasters, I don't care if it's Patrick Bet-David, Rogan, all of them. You mean to tell me they can't put this together? All of them can. Glenn Beck? No, instead all of them. Praise RFK Jr., praise Elon Musk. And what does everybody do with Donald Trump? You rake him over the coals. You don't give him nearly the credit he deserves. And yet Trump was the one trying to do something about Epstein, while RFK Jr., who gets a pass for everything, okay? Oh, because he's such a nice guy. I don't think he's such a nice guy. I think he's full of shit. I think he's as full of shit as Elon Musk is. And I think Rogan's full of shit. And I think Patrick Bet-David's full of shit. And I think Glenn Beck's full of shit. I think all the podcasters are full of shit. Maybe not all of them, but the big ones for sure. So the late 80s, Trump was trying to get something done because what Epstein was doing. Yet whenever Epstein's brought up, well, Trump was on a flight. Trump said he was never on a flight. He's not on any logs. Yeah, those logs, there's been a ton that have been, people have messed with. But the true log and the testimony by the victims that gave testimony in the Ghislaine Maxwell case said he wasn't involved. His involvement was throwing Jeffrey Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago because of his inappropriate behavior with young workers there. And then Trump talking to the lawyer that was trying to go after Epstein in the 80s. But RFK didn't know that? Okay, whatever. I call bullshit on that. RFK went on 2 different flights, and one of them was fossil hunting. And then, supposedly, RFK Jr.'s second wife, isn't she the one that killed herself? The Kennedys are so far deep into this Epstein stuff, it's pathetic. But nobody ever wants to call them out, right? I mean, again, Cindy McCain said everybody knew about it. Nobody wanted to do something. No, just the only person that wanted to do anything about it was Donald Trump. The very people that cover for RFK Jr., put him on a pedestal, put Elon Musk on a pedestal, but they are so criticizing of Donald Trump. That's how messed up our society is. And I doubt this will get seen by anybody. But maybe when the heavens part and God decides to finally let all light be shown, then people will see that there were some of us out here saying the real truth.